Once again, good morning, everyone. We will get started with continuing what was left in the previous class. So, to give a small recap, in the last class we discussed about static connection networks, right? So, these static connection networks are fixed topologies where you connect different processing elements or processors via some kind of a network, right? And once you set it up, you cannot change it dynamically, like meaning you have to reassemble it. Okay, so we talked about few things there. We talked about scalability as one of the factors, which means if you buy say 1,000 processors today and you buy 1,000 processors next year, so you should be able to scale it, right? It should not be like connecting just one wire and then calling it connected, right? So your network topology should be gradually scalable. So we saw other parameters. So we will quickly have what to say an interaction to know where we are. Okay. So let's start. So we saw something as number of nodes, number of edges, right? So and we also saw something called number of the degree of uh, node. So can somebody tell me what is a degree in a static network? Who wants to start? Swedel, please point to someone. Who's that? Did you say a name? No, pick one. Okay, Rahul Sahu. Can you hear me? Yeah, Rahul. What is degree of a node? Can you try again? It's not the number of nodes. Degree. Rahul, guess again. If you take a graph, you have a bunch of nodes, you have a bunch of edges to make it a graph, right, or a network. Now, what does degree of a node means? Sum of nodes. No, that's not right again. So what about the other Rahul? Rahul Kumar, Rahul Kumar Singh. Rahul, you're there? Rahul Kumar? Yeah. Can you please answer? Number of edges connected to it. Yes, that's correct. Very good. So when you say degree of a node, it means that the total number of edges that comes in and goes out. So the number of edges that comes in is called as in degree, and the number of edges that goes out is called the out degree. But for this subject, we will be considering bidirectional graphs, which means we just count the total number of edges connected to the node. Okay, good. Okay, Rahul, please spell out some name, call out someone. Yeah, pick someone, Rahul. Hey, Rahul, can you call out someone in the class? Who else can answer? Soumya, Soumya, are you there? Hey, if you can actually talk, it's better. Okay, so in case your mic is not working, then you can choose to text. I prefer when you guys interact when you speak out. Yes, Soumya, you can unmute. Yeah, sure. What is network diameter? Now you are distance between which two nodes? Any two nodes? Okay. So let's pick one network, right? Let's pick ring. Very simple network. If you take a ring of size, say, with 16 nodes, okay. So now what will be the diameter? The distance between which two nodes will make the diameter? Distance between which and which? So I've given you the network, right? You can see the screen, right? Okay. Okay. So we'll form a ring out of this. Okay. So there are eight nodes here. Let's forget 16. We'll just pick eight nodes. Now tell me, distance between what and what is the diameter? Uh-huh. Okay. Is it shortest or the longest? Because last time you said it's the shortest. It's the longest. Okay. So what do you mean longest? Let's pick. Okay, don't 0 to 4, right? Okay, okay. So 0 to 4. Ah, correct. Good, good, good. Correct. Okay. So be careful when you mention these terms, right? Shortest or longest. Okay. So me, I'm not picking on you. I'm just using you to make everyone else also understand. Okay. See, when you say the shortest distance between two nodes, it is from 0 to 1. Correct. But that's not the diameter. Now, if you say the longest distance between two nodes, that is also 0 to 1. If you take the longest distance, it goes from here, right? 0, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? So you take the reverse route, it becomes the longest distance. But that is also not the diameter. Now, diameter is the maximum of the shortest distances between any two nodes. Okay. All right. Thanks, Soumya. You're correct actually. Like I said, you're right, but I just want everyone else also to understand. So when you take the shortest distances, let's pick all the shortest distances. It becomes 0 to 1, and then 0 to 2 is this, and 0 to 3 is this, okay, and then so on. And then 1 to 0 is this, 1 to 1 is this, 1 to 2 is this. So you have all these. I mean, 1 to 1 there is no connection. But then, so when you take all these things and then list the all the shortest distances, and you take the longest or the maximum of the shortest distance, that is your diameter. Okay. So in a ring it becomes the two extreme points. In any network it becomes the two extreme points. Okay, clear. Very good, very good. Thanks, Soumya. Now what is bisection bandwidth? Soumya, please call out someone else, right? Shubham. Shubham, are you there? I don't see Shubham. Is there okay, can you call out someone else? Sugyan? Yeah. So what is bisection bandwidth? Yeah, you're there. You just have to rephrase your sentence. Okay. All right. Yeah, yeah, kind of right. So, yeah, when you draw a line, right? Okay. So, in other words, what you're trying to say is if I have to break my network into two halves, where will I draw that line? Okay. So, when I draw a line here, right? Okay. So, I have to remove this edge and then this edge. So, if I remove these two edges, how many edges? The minimum number of edges I have to remove to divide my network into two halves. Okay, thanks Sugyan. You're almost there. Okay, so that is your bisection bandwidth, as the name suggests, right? So it's a bisection you are creating. So which means like it is nothing but how many edges, minimum number of edges you have to remove. So as you see in a ring, it is two. Okay, you just have to remove two edges to make the network into two equal halves. Okay, and we saw different topologies. Again, I will not go through all that again. Okay, so we will come to today's class now. Now, today we are going to talk about dynamic connection networks. So previously we dealt with static networks, and as I said, static networks are once the topology is built, you cannot change it. Like meaning you cannot program your topology to function. Okay, you cannot dynamically disable or enable certain nodes. Okay, so but there are some advantages and there are some disadvantages. So to overcome all the disadvantages of the static connections, right? So we have dynamic connection networks, and dynamic connection networks are very much useful when you need a network on chip. Okay, so on a chip you cannot afford to have static connections. It becomes way too much unwieldy. Okay, so mostly dynamic connection networks are suitable for system on chips. The first one is a bus system. I'm sure like you would have learned about bus architecture in your earlier semesters in microcontrollers or microprocessor class, right? So the next one is switch modules. So we have something called as switches that can dynamically connect source and destination. Okay, just like switch, right? Like modern day switches. So we have binary switch, straight or crossover connections, and there is something called as multi-stage interconnection network or MINS. These MINS structures are built using these switch modules. Okay, switch module is just one module, and then when you have like multiple such switch modules in different stages, it becomes a multi-stage interconnection network. And there are different multi-stage interconnection network based on how you assemble or connect these switches and how do you have these stages defined. And one such is omega network, and there is also something called as baseline network, and there is also something called as crossbar network. Okay, we will see all these in today's class. Okay, so there is a summary also. So I'll leave the summary as a reading exercise. Summary is going to look like the previous slide, right? So you have a table of all the details. So we'll start with bus system. So bus is nothing but connection of wires and connectors, right? So can somebody from the from somebody from the class tell me what a bus is? It's connection of wires. We know that, but where is it used? How and then what is the purpose? Whatever you know about bus, right? In one or two sentences. So we'll start with Sugyan. Point to someone. Who's that? Sweden? Sweden. Yeah, Sweden. Yeah. What do you understand by bus and where is it used? What do you know about it? Okay. Okay. Do- okay. Good. Very good. Nice. Thank you. Yeah, it was almost perfect. It was good. I think you covered all the points. Okay. So you do one transaction at a time. So you actually kind of broadcast the message to through the bus, and only the receiver will receive it. So it's a trusted system. Okay, and there's also something called as bus arbitration. So you allow only one transaction at a time, right? Which means that, see, if A wants to send something to B, I'll use bus. Correct. Now, if C wants to send something to D, I have to again use the same bus, but I cannot use it at the same time because A and B are now talking. Correct. Now, so that is why you need something called as an arbiter, and that bus arbiter is going to take care of this arbitration. It's going to say, oh, okay, so now A is talking to B. Okay, C and D, you wait. Okay, so once that transaction is done, then C and D can talk. Okay, so that there is no conflict. So there is no contention. It's called as contention and time sharing of bus. And there's also something called as bus masters and slaves. Okay, so this is again very important. So generally, bus architecture is found in CPU architecture, like microprocessors, where your CPU is the bus master, and all other devices like your memory, your IO devices, they are all slaves. Okay, so the bus master is active device there, so he is the one who is going, or he or she, like the bus master is the one who is going to initiate the transaction, and the slaves are all passive devices. They are just going to acknowledge and then receive or send. So it's going to look something like this. So there's a bus here, and then so this is the this all the devices, slave devices, and here are the processors. So like I said, this is mostly seen in microprocessor systems, right? Okay. Next we have switch modules. Okay, so switch modules, it's like a by B switch where you have A inputs and then B outputs, and again there is a conflict. We've seen switches in one of the earlier lectures. Okay, I'm not sure if you remember it. I briefly explained this, but again here is what a switch is going to look like. So it's called as a crossbar switch or a crossbar binary switch. So here we see a 2 by 2 switch. It's one of the simplest switches here. Now the idea is, so you this is a 2 by 2 switch, right? So two inputs and then two outputs are there. Okay. So now if x1 wants to send something to y1, my S is simply a select, right? So I can select, I can use multiplexers inside to select which one is going to talk to which. So it's just it's a simple gate combinational circuit here. That's all. Okay. So inside this black box, it's a very small combinational circuit, something controlled by a mux. So when x1 wants to talk to y1, it's going to connect this. Okay. Now if x2 wants to talk to y2, then there is no problem. Again, I'm going to connect this line. Okay. So now two transactions can happen parallelly, correct? Unlike in the bus, in bus, when A was talking to B, C was not able to talk to D, correct? But now, you if x1 is talking to y1, x2 can talk to y2. But now the problem is, can somebody say what is the problem? Sweetal, can you point to someone? Vishal, Vishal, are you there? Yeah, Vishal, what is the problem with crossbar now? So crossbar overcomes the problem of bus, because in bus, when say x1 is talking to y1, x2 was not able to talk to y2 because there was only one bus. But that problem is solved in crossbar. But there is another problem here. What is the problem? Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, that's the good thing about it. But what's the limitation here? Okay, so x1 can talk to y1 and x2 can talk to y2. Okay, however, when x2 wants to talk to y1, that is not possible. It means there is a conflict. Okay, similarly, if x1 wants to talk to y2 and x2 wants to talk to y2, then that is also not possible. Okay, it will create a conflict. So you have to keep in mind that who is talking to whom. So in other words, I'll give another example, right? So let's do this. See, there are two possibilities here. Okay, one is x1 can talk to y1 and x2 can talk to y2. So this is one possibility. The other possibility is x1 can talk to y2 and x2 can talk to y1. So this is another possibility. This is the second possibility. Okay, so there are two ways you can communicate, but the other two you cannot. Okay, when x1 talking to y1 and then x2 also talking to y1, it's not possible. So but this is possible. Okay, it gives you two configurations. Okay, so either you actually talk to your counterpart, like who is in the same line as yours, or you can cross over. Okay, that limitation is you still have conflict because x1 and x2 both cannot talk to y1, and similarly x1 and x2 both cannot talk to y2. So that is the conflict. Okay, but you cannot help that, so we have to live with that one. Understood? Clear, Vishal? And now, so totally, if you have like n by n crossbar, then you have n factorial permutations in which you can talk to the other person, right? So those many connections are possible. Here is it's a summary of how many legitimate states and how much permutation connections are possible. Okay, so this is just a summary for you. So, but this is the backbone. Okay, so this is like a most basic element for all your dynamic networks. So this is pretty much used in everyday life now as we speak, right? All your cell phones, computers, anywhere when you have system on chip, you use a network on chip. So you use these crossbars. It's a very important part of your architecture. Next, we will talk about MINs, okay, multi-stage interconnection network. So MINs are formed by assembling more than one of the switches. Okay, you assemble lot of switches and you make stages out of it. In stage one you have these switches, stage two you have these switches, and you make a pipeline out of it, right? So you have different stages, and here you will configure. So for example, you will say, so here again there's going to be a network. So it's going to look something like this. So you're connecting all these switches like this, right? Now you can also make a switch out of this interconnection here. So you have an interconnection between these two stages, right? So you can say this guy will go here and this guy will go here. Okay, and similarly here you can have this guy will go somewhere here, and then this guy may go here. If you remember, I'm not sure if you had digital signal processing or anything. So have you heard of FFT, butterfly networks? Have you guys heard of that? Anyone? Vishal, have you heard of butterfly network in FFT, fast Fourier transform? Have you guys heard of that? No, you have not. Okay, that's okay. That's fine. So the idea is something like this, right? So we actually, yeah, let's save it for the next slide. So the idea is this. So what you can have is you can actually have an interconnection in these stages too. Okay, so that's what your multi-stage interconnection network is. And in this, there are different classes. The way you are going to connect one stage to the other, right? You can actually have different networks. So you can either have like a perfect shuffle, butterfly, or multi-way shuffle, crossbar, and many more like that. Okay. Any questions on multi-stage interconnection network? It's clear, right? So you're just assembling multiple crossbar switches together. Okay, so next is Omega network. So Omega network is one such min structure. Okay, so it's one of the multi-stage interconnection networks. The figure in your textbook, this is the figure in your textbook with 16 bits, but somehow I feel it is not quite right, and it's also confusing. So I picked the figure from Wikipedia, which is actually good, and it's easy for you to understand, easy for me to understand as well. Okay, so see, Omega network is just formed by doing perfect shuffle. Okay, and if you remember what perfect shuffle was, I think we saw perfect shuffle in the previous class. So perfect shuffle means if you have 0 0 0 0 0 0 1 0 1 0 and so on, right? So perfect shuffle means you just have to shift the bit one left. Okay, one to the left. So 0 0 0 will go to 0 0 0 because there's nothing to shift, right? So 0 0 1 will become 0 1 0. Correct. So this will be my next neighbor. So 0 1 0 is going to become 1 0 0. Okay, and then 0 1 1 is going to, so 0 1 1 is next, right? So that guy will become 1 1 0. Correct, and so on. So this is called as perfect shuffle. And there's also something called as inverse perfect shuffle, which is one shifting one bit to the right. Okay, but here Omega network is formed by doing a perfect shuffle. So now if you see 0 0 0 is there, it connects to 0 0 0 only. Okay, so this is 0 0 0, correct? Now 0 0 1 is there. 0 0 1 should connect to 0 1 0, right? So if you say 0 0 0 0 0 0 1 0 1 0 0 1 1, this is 1 0 0 1 0 1 1 1 0, and this is 1 1 1. So 1 1 1 also connects to 1 1 1. 0 0 0 connects to 0 0 0. Now 0 0 1 will connect to one bit shifted left. So this guy goes to 0 1 0, and then 0 1 0 is going to connect to one bit left again here. 0 1 1 is going to connect to 1 1 0. Okay, so you see how this network is formed, and you do the same thing for multiple stages. Okay, so in the end you get like different combinations of your network. And why we are doing all these things is because to reduce the conflict. Okay, as you saw, we can allow certain transactions, but we may not be able to allow some conflict, right? So to keep the conflicts minimal, you are introducing multiple stages, and you're introducing multiple combinations of these interconnections. Clear, guys? Any questions? You guys are not asking questions. Is it clear, guys? Okay, real nice of you, Sridhar. Seriously, guys, come on. I think we should start interacting, right? Let's not keep this like a monologue. Next, we have a baseline network. Okay, so in baseline network, what you do is you start with an n by n block. So this is an n by n block. So this is the first stage. Okay, then what you do is in the second stage you connect only n by n by 2 by n by 2 block. Okay, and you connect this n by n block to n by 2 by n by 2 to n by 2 n by 2 blocks. And then next you will have n by 4, right? So you will have 4 n by 4 blocks. Okay, so you'll actually connect it like this. Okay, so it goes on like that. So now if you see this figure here, so you're going to have, so this is your n by n block, and you will go on up to a point where you reach the minimum 2 by 2 block size. So 2 by 2 is the basic size, right? So you'll reach up to that point. So then you have these two n by 2 sorry, yeah, n by 2 blocks. Then you have your n by 4 blocks until you reach, and finally you have only your 2 by 2 blocks here. You end up with 2 by 2 blocks. Okay, it became shabby, no? Okay, so this is your baseline network. Okay, so again this is just another variation. So again, why are you sticking to n by 2? It's because you, when you have n by 2, right, so in you can divide the network in half. It becomes this binary tree kind of structure. Okay, you can reach to the other half of the network in one hop. Okay, so this guy, if he wants to send it to like this particular extreme node, okay, now he has to first hop to the next half, correct? So you divide the entire network into halves. So you hop from here to here, and then in this also you divide it into halves. You hop from this and then you cross to the next half. It's similar to your binary search, if you think about it, right? In binary search or in binary tree, anything to do with the binary divide and conquer, right? So you do this, right? You jump to the next half. So your complexity becomes in terms of log n now. Okay, you want to the if you want to calculate the worst case latency, it's going to be in log n steps, correct? So you always jump to the next network in halves, correct? Any questions on this, guys? Okay, okay, and then we have your crossbar network. Crossbar networks are, again, this is, I think you have studied in digital logic. So you'd have studied about PLAs, right? PDAs, PLAs, where the idea is very simple. Okay, so you have, there are the two ways you can do this. So first one is you have the senders, and then you have receivers here. And if you want to establish a connection between a sender and a receiver, you actually establish a connection. You turn on the switch here. So it means now this is occupied. Okay, you're using this line. Now if this guy wants to talk to M2, you can actually do this. Okay, so without actually interfering, you can talk to this guy. Okay, so this is how the PLAs are. So this is a crossbar network. It's again similar to your 2 by 2 crossbars, but then we have more than that, right? So you have more than 2 by 2 here. And also this is not exactly the same. It's a small variant of that. Okay, so this is something like you will just switch on, turn on the connections, whichever you want to establish. Again, this leads to some conflicts which you have to be careful about. The other configuration is your sender and receiver, all the elements will actually be present here. Okay, so it's the same. Senders and receivers are the same, so you don't differentiate as senders or receivers, and then you establish these connections. Okay, so that's the other variant. It's not, I mean, essentially they are both the same. Okay, any questions on this, guys? So this is your crossbar network. Okay, I think that brings us to the end of this topic, the dynamic connection networks. Okay, so any questions, guys? See, like I mentioned, right? Your multi-stage networks have log of k, right? So where k is the, I mean, how you're dividing it, right? The radix of that network. So it's just log of k. So the complexity is very less compared to others. So crossbar switches have n squared because you're actually you're repeating the same nodes, right? Sender and receiver. so it became n squared, and bus is obviously is n, but at a time you can only have one transaction, right? Any questions, guys? How was it? Did you learn something? Okay, so if not, I'll just stop the recording. Okay, thank you, guys.